and welcome to this special episode where Ignite remembers Father Charles Chilinda. Father Chilinda was born on the 29th of October, 1965, and he died on the 21st of January, 2021. I like to say that Father Charles Chilinda was different things to different people. The last week, we took time to talk to a number of people, some of his friends that he was with as far back as 1986, and some people that he met along the way. What struck me the most was his ability to reconcile politicians. Every politician had their own story to share when it came to Father Charles Chilinda. A few months before his death, we caught up with former Republican President, His Excellency Mr. Remebered, and he had so much to say. I recall in that interview, he told me that he held Father Chilinda very close and dear to his heart. Let's just take a look and find out what he had to say.
Why? Father Chilinda is, sorry to embarrass him, but this is time to talk truth.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry to embarrass him.
Yes.
Even before this was built up, I remember he used to come and see me and say, my dream and my colleagues in the church is to start something like this. And I'm so happy that finally I have seen it and participated in its activities. When I was at the peak of persecution, when some of the politicians were announcing on the news that if you see Remebered at any border post, arrest him. Don't allow him to cross the border. When my passport was taken away from me, that of my wife, when I was supposed to go to the hospital to check my health because of my age, and etc., and people say, no, he's about to go into jail, he stole this, he did this and that. One of the very few people that was courageous enough to face Mr. Sata. You know, Mr. Sata was very easy for anyone. He has to go and talk to him. But he would go to him and say, what you are doing, Mr. President, is not fair. That man is your friend, and you know he didn't do what you're saying. And you know he deserves to go to the hospital. You know that he is a kind person. Why can't you be kind to him? That's why I would suddenly get a call from nowhere from Mr. Sata. I see on my phone, say, President Sata. President Onifuna, and he wants to arrest me a second time. And I would answer him and say, how are you, Mr. President? Arabi, how are you? He's so rest in peace. And I said, I'm okay. He said, have you been to see your doctor? But of course, he had been talking to me and say, I want you to go and see your doctor, and I'll talk to the president. So here's the president calling me now and saying, have you been to see your doctor? And I said, no, I haven't been to see my doctor. Why? I said, but you are the one who gave instruction to take my passport. Why do I go there? I was at the airport going to South Africa, and the immigration blocked me. They let Mrs. Banda go, but me, they stopped me. He said, forget about all that. I'm the president now speaking. Come and see me tomorrow. I'll give you your passport. There must be people in this country with a good heart to speak on behalf of those who can't speak for themselves.
Like Father Chilinda.
Like Father Chilinda. And there are many other people like Remebered who are suffering, who are stranded out there, who need a bit of help, just a little bit of help. And if people can sacrifice their popularity or their friendship with leaders, they should tell the leaders to help these people.
True.
And he's one of those. So I told Mr. Mikatazo, my sister, if it's Father Chilinda, I'm coming.
True. Wow.
So,
Thank you on behalf of Father Chilinda.
Thank you.
Now, you're still a very powerful man. Do you help like Father Chilinda? You've talked about people that have
we haven't seen each other for a long time. I think you feel sorry for me that I've died. You can see I've grown a beard. I haven't moved from my house for 3 months.
Okay. You look okay.
Well,
you're still Arabi to many of us.
Thank you.
We continue hearing from different people on how they had interacted with Father Charles Chilinda, who died on the 21st of January 2021. Joining me on set is Bishop John Mambo, who is the founder of Chikondi Foundations. Bishop, welcome to Remembering Father Charles Chilinda.
Thank you, and we keep on saying condolences to our dear departed brother, Father Chilinda.
Thank you so much. Now, what do you remember of Father Charles Chilinda? I know you and him had a very, very interesting relationship. You joke around, you know, you'd call each other names, but you were still brothers. What do you remember of him?
He was a carbon for the late President Sata in terms of, shooting straight. I remember him as he was flying to Rome, still doing his theological studies, and by then I was already a regional superintendent, so the flights was mine. Each time I was on the flight for some reason, we were together. But once he completed and he came back, we started this idea of bishop, what, and all that. And each time he met me, he was saying, just like the late Sata said, no born again can be bishop, only bishops are in the Catholic. Then Father Chilinda will say, you know what, Tampire, you who started to be bishop, and now all these born agains are a bishop. And his sense of humor. He was an ambassador of God, diplomat of God, very humble, very approachable. Many did not understand him because he was a peacemaker. He was not like some of us. Those that you did not like, you say to him, if you have a problem with that person, that is yours. So I think all the president worked with him. He tried to bring about peace in all. And sometimes, would be judgmental ourselves, as Zambians. But I think to remember him is to know that he was just Father Chilinda. Where would you go without him in terms of charity? Because compassion and giving, that's a love of God. So he was a father in the Catholic, in the Jews, but at the same time, he was very embracing. He's missed, and his departure is still shocking some of us. I speak as if he's here. If you tell me Father Chilinda is gone, I still don't accept it. The way he left and just going to the hospital and the next thing he is gone. I think there was a lot for him. There's a lot the country has lost. And sitting here, you think of him telling a story to some leaders. Now I remember telling the Minister of Local Government now saying how he started the whole project here, and the local government minister himself saying, though he's of another faith, he said, if I die, I want Father Chilinda to preside over my funeral procession. So, it's Gary Kombo. So that's Honorable Gary Kombo. So it's a great honor to have another church. For example, the Catholic would not allow me to come and celebrate Mass or the other way around. But when I heard that, I knew that he has touched too many people. For me, it was everything. He's in church. I'm attending a wedding or a funeral. So, there's another person here. And so we're very close.
So, Bishop, do you think Father Chilinda deserves to be honored?
Yes. More than the people that we have seen. His contribution to mankind, Zambian people and beyond, speaks volumes. And Christ is about love, compassion, regardless. And his love was across board. He was misunderstood just like some of us, but he never lost focus. He was focused in touching mankind. Regardless, where there were crises, was there. Where there was misunderstanding, where there was tension, Father Chilinda was there. And Zambia should learn to honor people that, even if we don't, being a Christian nation, God has already honored them. Because you look at those that go and parade, themselves from the president from time to time to be honored. They don't deserve it. I remember I talked about it, Bishop Bezet of Livingstone. He simply said, how about the others? So is the founding minister, Honorable Louis Shangu Ngufu. It was the same. So you will be doing as a Zambian to simply, they didn't attend his funeral because many still, including myself, still don't believe that he went to be with the Lord in death. So he has to be honored. If his order doesn't take it up, it's you and me to take it up with the Secretary of Cabinet that said, this man did such volume of work and we need to honor him.
Now, looking at Father Chilinda's nature, fearless, courageous, brave, do you see Zambia getting another Father Chilinda anytime soon? Especially in the political...
No. The ones that we have now is conditional. Where is it? Where will I get out of what I'm going to say, wrong or bad? I'm looking for favor from you, from that person, from the president and all that. Father Chilinda and some of us, we simply say, I respect your position, but I don't fear you. We will approach some of us in that regard. That look, you can call yourself a bishop, but in the Catholic Church you're not. And that's the oddest movement in the body of Christ.
Was that him challenging you?
You challenge me just like the late president said to challenge me. But we become friends, you get used and all that. Because it simply said, look, the moment you became a bishop, look at what is happening. There are churches within evangelicals where you have more bishops than members. And what's happening causing confusion. In the beginning I thought, wow, it's hurting. But later on it became reality. Thank God before he went to be with the Lord in death. Because you just have so... Look, if Zambia, just with so many bishops that we have in the evangelicals, meant good for the Lord, this would have been a country where we would never need the Anti-Corruption Commission, because it would have been peace, love, and all that.
True.
And Father Chilinda reminded us of such. And only that, he loved people by nature. At one time I joked with him and said, if I had a daughter that is young or a sister, I would have you marry. He said, oh no, I would have 30 kids or more. But that's how we open up to each other. Look, he was a friend of everybody. There are those who think to the contrary. You would not own Father Chilinda said, he's my friend alone. No, he was a friend for the people. The president and all that. He died at the time when he had tried to send a message to me to tell the now president HH that, look, you must tell him to stop being bitter. I said, bitter about what? He says, oh, if you're afraid, let me go and talk to him because he feels I'm too much on Edgar Lungu. Yeah. I am not. I'm just helping him. But I would love the two to meet. That was something. He died at the time that the Minister of Local Government would say, when I die, you are going to be the one to conduct mass from another church. So if you get that honor, how many of us would get such? So really, he's not gone. Really, it's important that we honor him. Not only him. I know a number of people that have died carrying the cross of the Lord. Father Chilinda was everywhere. He was not just a clergy that had, anything that one would be known of being an ambassador of God, he was such. But for Zambia and outside the world, people were too judgmental. Each one of us have been given names, have been given things of that nature. But I think where he is, for what he did, except it's sad for you, it's sad for me, how he departed. He never gave us a chance to say goodbye. He never gave us a chance to visit him in hospital. It was very, very sad. He never gave us a chance to bury him. I'm only praying that there will be a fund directed to him so that a scholarship can be created where the family of Chilinda, they can choose one of the best kids, maybe to study theology in that order of the Jews. Because those are the scholars in the Catholic Church. I'm not, but I like to read and follow other doctrines.
True. Now, you as bishop, what role would you like to play to ensure that his legacy lives on? I'm sure you know that TV production was something that he was very, very passionate about. Is there anything you'd like to do to ensure that his legacy lives on?
Look, I'm not with you here, but I'm with you in the Lord.
Yeah.
One thing that he left before he passed on, he kept on saying, this institution must not die.
Yes.
So for me and many others, if I went out and asked people, can we donate? They would think, oh, he wants to buy another vehicle. This is why I'm saying there must be a fund that will come direct, even an account open, just for or a foundation, just for Pastor Chilinda. And this station, which was started humbly, of course, there were others, and it contributed monthly when we transformed from organization of African Union, African unit to African Union.
True.
He was to what?
From AU, yeah.
From AU. So he was very instrumental because the whole process was recorded by and bringing the machinery, it was within the shortest possible time.
True.
Or no one believed. And thank the Jewish brothers in America that gave him an ear. And he worked hard. I think whatever he got, it was paid back. So all I'm saying is we shouldn't think of the PhD syndrome. He has died, he did this and whatever, and so forth. Because he was loved, he was like me.
True.
Girls loved him, women loved him, and all that. And you think to the contrary, but it's just that he was a father of everybody. That fits him to say father. So I will play a role in the sense that if I've got a cow, I would sell, but I need to know where I'm planting this seed. I don't want to just bring it to a reception, it ends there. And then I also go to knock doors to people that I know that if I talk about him, they would agree with me. True. And they will do something about it. So we need to continue that. If he has family members, that being a priest, they had no opportunity of getting a decent education and so forth, sure. That fund would also help because gathering some information about him, I mean, he died next to someone who was related, looking after him and things of that nature. And don't forget that maybe part of what took him, I don't like to speculate, he was looking after some of his co-laborers in the Lord who were found wanting in terms of sick, whether it was he was not a person of masks and so forth, but he was always in the supermarket shopping and doing what and things of that nature. So you never know what took him, only God. But he died serving the Lord. He died denying himself and carrying the cross and following the Lord.
Amen. Now, what are some of the lessons that we can learn from his life, especially for the clergy, considering that he played a very vital role in unifying the politicians?
Not a gossiper. In all circles of the clergy, of late in Zambia, we have taken it as a job, as a profession. Father Chilinda and others, it was a calling. You can tell when
it's a calling.
A few are called, men who just follow. That one was a calling. It's disappointing that you would find that even the one that you send to school tomorrow who gossip about you, that person was a calling. He never uttered a wrong word about people. That's how the late President Sata, they were very close. Even did his favorite song with your choir and things of that nature. And did an openly accounting, so that every cent that was given to him to do that, it was done. So, I mean, his life was, here my, O Lord, sent me.
True.
For us, some of us, is what is in the clergy. Will I buy a Mercedes? But for Father Chilinda, I'm glad that the title is that of a father, and the SG at the end, because he was truly, I mean, I miss him. Look, on a plane, the 747 that you had, you know, and when you put Catholics in one row, maybe there are 3 white young clergy going back to Rome to school. I would leave my seat and go and make noise with them. And not directed to any of them, but directed for the Chilinda. So
you miss him.
A friend is gone.
For many Zambians, we look at you as the next Father Chilinda because you're equally fearless, Bishop. You just call a spade a spade. You stand for justice, and that's what he stood for. You have a big heart, like he did. So for Zambians, I think we are hopeful. We still have people like you that can stand for this country and make sure that justice prevails. What are your final remarks as we come to the end of this program?
You know, Princess, I believe in one thing. You must have people that you envy and learn from them. Recently, quietly, I traveled to Bishop Tutu's funeral. I didn't go to Cape Town. But people do not know that Bishop Tutu and I, for 3 months, and the late Faustin Sakala, were in the bush of Naivasha in Kenya, negotiating with Renamo as well as Frelimo of Mozambique, for them to come in terms that they can stand for election. To an extent that the wife had adopted, you talk a lot. You must be my son because my husband, you know, is like that. But I envy them. I traveled from abroad when the late Cardinal Dadamazom was in hospital. And again, I learned a lot from him. The orphanage, the school and all that, which is in your chiefdom. It is because of him counseling me when I used to hear a lot of gossip from people. He would say, come to North Mean, that was his office, and let me help you. For me, I will follow, but never be like him, because you can never be like someone. It's not possible. It is just he was unique, he was a standalone, but he was a team player who wanted the people. Hence, his legacy will be for us, be it Catholic, non-Catholic, because even for this election, you know, now I can talk about it. If you hate me, hate me.
Yeah.
He took a stance to say, look, things are not going right, but I'm not a politician. True. Let me open up to the Catholic faithful, let them know about HHA. That's how you went to a committee house to go and interview HHA. He was not known. People thought, you know, but you heard that his checkbook and things. Some of the things that I learned from that interview, from this station, I did not know. But the current president had to open up and so forth. Who had to send you, make arrangement? That was the late Father Chilinda. So he contributed. So it is true that he has to be honest. So you also contributed. So let us continue to remember him. Let us do what he would have done the best.
Thank you so much, Bishop John Mambo. It was a pleasure having you on Ignite. And let us continue to remember Father Chilinda. And I think what is important is for all of us to hold hands and to ensure that his legacy moves on. We continue talking to friends of Father Chilinda, or rather people that had interacted with Father Chilinda. Today we are joined by Mr. Berry Lwando, who knew Father Chilinda way before he became a priest. And they've been friends ever since. Welcome to Ignite Remembers Father Chilinda.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, Father Chilinda indeed. Interesting person, interesting time.
Now, I've just said you met him before he became a priest. What was he like then?
Well, he was like any other, happy with life, go easy with life person. I remember him, my first meeting with him was when he came to university in 1986 as a freshman in the school that I was, humanities, and then the department I was, which was mass communication. So he was just a year behind us, and then I was the single broadcast major in television, and he was also coming in as to do a broadcast major in television. So in that sense, we had to gel, kind of link together. And also the relationship, I was pretty strong at the time with the Catholic community at the university. And he was already enrolled in the Jesuit spirituality at the time. So there was a connection both from the spiritual angle and also the fact that we were both training to become broadcasters, mass communicators and broadcasters.
I know with Father Chilinda, nothing was impossible. You just told me earlier that he tried to recruit you to become a priest.
Yes, he did. A combination of him, Anthony Mporokoso, Father Roy Thedan, and the late Pete Titland collectively tried, especially that I was strongly involved in the Catholic activities. In fact, one time at that point, I think I was chair of the Catholic community at the university. But destinies don't work that way. I really wasn't destined to be a person of the color. But for Charles, the thing about him was, he was so much man of the world that there were times we would sit around and say, him being a priest? Yeah, so he's, but that's where God works, right? Yeah, so he was the one that really God had a calling for. And but like you say, he was a never say no guy. He was the kind of person you ran to when you had an issue. He was a go-getter. He was also a reconciliator.
So that started way
back. He had this appearance about him which was aggressive. When you are meeting him, you kind of make your mind up about him. It's when he opens his mouth and starts speaking that you find that, oh, okay, this guy doesn't act any way the way he looks. So he'll be long, shaggy hair, and done shirt and button shirt, and but that would be Father Chilinda. Then to become Father Chilinda, that was Charles.
Cool. Your greatest moments with him? I know there are plenty.
Many. As students, then we took a big thing. We went to one of the refugee camps. We did an excursion there, trying to help refugees with Father Pete Titland was our patron at the time, he was pretty instrumental to getting that done. We also worked together to start the UNZA Press Club, which I don't know if it's functioning now, but we started it in I think 86 or 87. It was mostly him and I, and maybe one or two others. And then in later life, as a priest, we worked together in a lot of things, broadcast-wise, including the fact, one incident here, I must say one thing. You know, there's a time I was standing in a friend's child as the godfather. Now, I was right at the back of the church, and he was the one who was presiding, the priest was presiding at the time. Then in the middle of the whole meeting, he stops me and says, a miracle has happened today. Now, everybody in the church was like, Beryl has come to church. Yeah, those were incidents that, so you try to hide yourself, but but that would be Father Chilinda for you. But there are big moments that we've done. So I remember him both as a priest, because even the time that he was a big reconciliator actually. So he cultivated a very big name at a very young age as a priest, because even at the time that he has passed, mid-50s, early 50s, is still very young for a priest, because that is when you really are getting your ground set, because priesthood tends to bring out in you, as you grow older, a lot of wisdom and other things. But as you are younger, you get known by your nature, the things that you do. The construction of this place, the start of Loyola Studios, from an office in St. Ignatius, a small little office.
Kalemba Hall, yes.
Yeah, Kalemba Hall, moving to the place, that's what place is that. It's now converted into something else. And then getting this started and sourcing money. He was an adventurer. He was a never say die guy. And because of that, we were able to do some of the things that he did. We worked on documentaries together, we worked on productions together. So, yeah. So for me, his memory lingers both as a priest, a friend, and also a broadcaster.
You just talked about Mission Impossible that you did for Loyola. Maybe briefly talk about that before the interview.
Oh, that was 2015, is it 16, I think? Maybe 17, I forget. But the issue was we had an annual general meeting of the African Development Bank.
Yeah.
The award to do all the broadcasting was almost given, or at least given, almost agreed with the South African company. So then somebody apparently spoke to Father Chilinda, and Father Chilinda called me in the middle of the night or somewhere, that together with Mr. Jeff Sitali, and said, guys, we need to meet in the morning. We came and met. What's up? We need to do this. It was huge. So we started writing, which is one of my specializations, writing proposals and things. So put it together, took it there. It was, people did not think
we could pull it off.
We could pull it off. And then we had to start now arguing, justifying, and then South Africa had already wheels turning. The equipment was already moving. It was already on the way coming. And then they wanted to look at equipment, they wanted us to justify this, justify that. It was an impossible undertaking. But true to Charles Chilinda character, he was headbutting at every turn, So in the end, they gave us a conditional award. You are going to do it, but before that, we need you to show us the gear, you need to show us the equipment that you have, the stuff that you had, and so on and so forth. So while I was putting together the stuff, he jumped onto a plane into America. 2 days later, he was flying back from America with equipment.
Wow.
And we spent a night in here actually putting that equipment together, and the officials from the awarding team, which was Ministry of Finance, people from, because ADB is the whole Africa.
Yes.
The secretary actually shifted here to come and inspect the equipment.
Wow.
And we had all pieces and things all over here. In fact, these 3 cameras I'm saying were part of that.
Wow.
So it was interesting and exciting for us. But this was an exhausted, I was seated in a corner somewhere there. And we were watching that. Because he had done a bit of trouble in 2 nights, 3 nights, and managed to bring all this. That's the nature of him. When we actually did finish that production, the officials told us that it was the best that they had ever seen from the years they've been doing it.
Wow.
So we felt proud about that, and all due to his spirit of not giving up. Any lesser being would have said, "Hey, damn it, we'll do something else."
But that was
that's it. Yeah, so that would be him, and that's the nature of the person.
So what are some of the lessons that you've learned from his life?
One, reconciliation. One of the things that pity that my memories as a broadcaster and broadcaster was always we were at each other's necks. I was either threatening him about something, and he was always the reconciliator. There are times I say, "Father, look, I don't like this," and especially that I migrated into running a program which is African in nature, but we relied on Loyola Studios to provide us facilities, to provide us support, even the editing, the first editing of all the functions that happened here at Loyola Studio. So the issue was we had that kind of relationship where I'd be screaming and huffing at one point, he would be cool and calm at the other point, then I'd feel a bit stupid, come back and apologize and say, "Okay, I'm sorry, but can we still do this?" And you'd say, "Look, Barry, just come and deal with it." And so one of the lessons learned about him was he had a big heart, big reconciliator. Even in the church, when we used to would have some friction elsewhere in our relationships and spiritually, he'd be one of the people that you consult. So in that sense, you'd say he was really, really, really heavy and big on reconciliation. And that is one of the biggest lessons that I learned from him, actually.
Great. Now, knowing that Father Chilinda was very passionate when it came to broadcast, TV, production, that's his legacy, that's what he's known for. What are you doing to ensure that his legacy lives on, as a friend?
Honestly, right now, nothing. That nothing won't continue for long. Yeah, that nothing won't continue for long. The thing about it is that his legacy was, actually broadcasting, and there are a lot of things that he did. Perhaps one of the ways that we could do, and I'm saying we more than I, because it has to be collective, is first of all make Loyola continue. That would be great. Although it is a Jesuit institution and bigger than the man, obviously. But the thing about it is that he was instrumental to getting formatted, and it would be great to see how that grows. But there are also some projects which he left were not yet consolidated, one of which is being worked on. I'm hoping we can still proceed almost to the size of the ADB, but with the experience that we had in the past, I think we'll be a lot better prepared. So that, and then obviously there are things about the growth of Loyola itself, which I think we've got to do a bit more at a personal level, and even collectively, broadcast being collective work. So yeah, those are the things that I would want to do, and possibly at one point name something after him, broadcast-wise, in the greater diaspora, or even in the Zambian situation with MISA Zambia or IBA, Independent Broadcast Association, perhaps something like that. Because he did things which were quite interesting. Because even the broadcast license for this place, I think he got it a lot earlier than anybody else. He was quite capable of doing that, and just kept it at some point, gave it to the bishops at some point. There was some discussion about, do we go this way, do we go that way, and that kind of delayed things. But I think he is deserving in a personal capacity, but also collectively as a broadcast, especially this institution, Loyola. It is deserving of growth, especially to keep his memory alive. Although his memory will always be alive. I remember at his funeral, the joke was, anytime now he can just appear and say, the sense was, it was so bigger than life that you couldn't write the word death and Charles Chilinda in the same sentence.
That's why we still call him Father Charles Chilinda. We don't say late Father Chilinda.
He was really just that kind of thing. And when I spoke to him, especially at his funeral, it was the sad part was 2 members of the same family, both Jesuits, went. His nephew and him, both from the same place, Chulubi, which was kind of sad. But yeah, I'm sure Charles right now is looking at us and is probably saying, and pointing at me and saying, you are coming, I was so joyful, you're right. But that would be Charles' way. But we have to do something to just kind of honor his image, honor him, and keep part of the fruits that the seed that he sowed.
Great. As an authority in broadcasting, how would you like to remember him?
Well, with Charles, one of the things that people didn't know about Charles was a very strong reader. He didn't give the impression that he read a lot. Just like he didn't quite give an impression that he had 5 degrees. But that's the kind of person that he was. But he was a very avid reader. Half the time, part of the arguments we used to have was he'd throw something at me which I did not quite know, and I had to go and read and realize that he was right. Now, I've been a broadcaster all my life. He's been priest and broadcaster. So I'm expected to know more broadcasting than he does. So when he throws something at me, those were the times when I would get really, really upset. You can't tell me that. I am the broadcaster. So yeah, but the thing about it was, in terms of broadcasting, his knowledge was very profound. I never managed to get him to get to teaching broadcasting because that would have been great. But in terms of remembering from a broadcast point, it would be nice to research some of the things that's done and some of the things in broadcasting which actually gives us the spirituality that we have in the light of growth, in the light of development, which means broadcasting to the world and getting the spirituality of life going. I think that would be a great tribute to the man, because then it would be really enhancing what he wanted to do, because he didn't really just want to be a broadcaster, but he also didn't want to be his broadcasting capacity to just be enshrouded in spirituality. It was both a combination of secular and religious, and the combination which made it more a reality of us human beings and how we live on earth.
And finally, 1 year plus without Father Chilinda. How has that been for you?
It doesn't feel like he's actually gone, because you feel you can walk into here anytime. Yeah, so you tend to not think of him in the past. I don't think it will be there will ever be a time where we're going to think about Father Charles Chilinda in the past tense, because he was always very present in individuals' lives, in people's lives, in their problems, in their sorrows. So we always thought him as present. So although a year has passed, in fact, I only realized it was a year about 3 days ago. I think, is it Father Monga? I forget which priest it was, who wrote something, I think about 4 days ago. Then I realized, oh, it's already been a year. Yeah, but with Charles, you are bound to feel that way, because he always feels present.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Orlando, thank you so much for taking time to come and talk to us, and just to take us back to those days, where we were not, but you were with him before he was a priest.
Yes. Well, I always remember that. I always remember him that way. So until we meet him again, I think he left a path, he left a way. The idea is to just fulfill some of the things that he did, and most of them are good.
Thank you. Everybody has their own stories. Today we are joined by Brenda Wadia, who had interacted with Father Chilinda on different platforms, and she's here to share with us what she remembers of Father Chilinda and how she has chosen to remember him in the last 1 year. By the way, Father Chilinda died on the 21st of January 2021 out of COVID-19 complications. Brenda, welcome to this special episode where we remember Father Charles Chilinda.
Thank you so much, Mangala, for inviting me and having here today.
Thank you. Now, I know you had worked with Father Chilinda on different platforms. Today we're talking about, probably before we talk about some of the works that you have done with him, who was Father Chilinda to you?
I think for me, I remember him as someone who was joyful and who had faith. That, especially on the faith side, it's one thing that I always remember, because through him, I grew and learned to have faith in all things and in God. And it's something always used to encourage me, because I guess I can be a doubting Thomas, if I can use that word. And you'd always say, Brenda, have faith, everything will be fine, you know what I mean. And I think one thing is Father Chilinda also brought people together. Yeah. He had the eye of identifying different strengths in people and bringing them together for a common cause, and everything would just work like a well-oiled machine. Wow. That's one thing that was great about Father Chilinda, the bringing of people together. Yeah.
And I know, I remember the first time I met Father Chilinda, the first thing he told me, you know what, Mangala? Do you know what love is? I was like, no, Father. He says, the measure of love is to love without measure. And I think that's one thing that he lived by. Yeah. Today we remember him and we are saying, wow, what a man he was. Well, yeah. How has been the last 1 year been for you, considering that you used to work with him very, very closely, particularly on the feeding program?
I think it's been hard, and having a close relationship with him where you're interacting in different arenas, different things, and especially the projects that you worked on his charity side. It's like, you have a missing piece of the puzzle. And when I got the news that he had died, initially I was in shock, where you fail to cry. And I think it took me quite a bit of time before it sank in, and it was like gone. He's actually gone.
And I remember that news, hit all of us. I think it was around 19.
Yes, yes,
it was a Thursday.
Yes.
I was like a joke. Has he died or? So tell me, how has been the feeding program? I know you have continued with that legacy. Yes. That's something that Father loved so
much. Yes.
You know, Brenda, it's even hard for me to say late Father Charles Chilinda. We keep saying Father Charles Chilinda. It's like one day he'll come
He's
back.
forever in our hearts.
Yeah, he's forever in
Yes,
our hearts.
yes.
How has been the feeding program been this year? I know you did one very
Yes,
successful.
we did, yes. So I think even after he died, a few months later, I had a lot of parishioners at St. Ignatius approach me where they were like, you know, don't let it die, continue, you know what I mean? So it was a bit of encouragement. So the feeding program team, we sat down, we would talk and, you know, would say, what are we going to do? But we still had the passion, and it's something that he was so passionate about it. So about September, sat down with the parish priest, Father Andrew Simpasa at St. Ignatius Church, and, you know, what are we going to do? Are we going to continue? And it was basically, yes, let's go full throttle. And I think for the first time, he was like my wingman, you know what I mean? And I was the wing person, you know, we would always work together, especially when raising funds and going out there. It was scary because he was like a phone book. He was like, you know,
He knew everybody.
You know,
he would call anyone and say,
Yes.
look, I need this from you.
So
and
I
they'll
think
come
the
through.
first thing that hit me was, are we going to manage? Because we need so much money, and estimated was about 250,000 in order to make it work. And we always plan for worst case scenario in the sense that if we don't get any donations, we're able to raise enough funds to buy all the requirements. And I mean, cooking for UTH, Levy, Chainama, St. John's, St. John Paul, it's actually a mammoth task, but we also take on Mutendere Mission Hospital in Chirundu. We don't cook for them, but we provide the materials
Food
that
for
they
them,
need
yeah.
for the Christmas lunch. So looking at this budget, I thought, how is this going to happen? And, you know, I'm always, you know, pushing myself, telling myself, have faith. Remember, Father Charles used to say, have faith, you know what I mean?
We're going to have to do
So
this.
the beginning was slow, and you know, you look at this bank account, it's got 2,000, then it's 5,000, and you're thinking it's October, it's November, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But towards the end, Mangala, the way people came in terms of cash donations, you know, food donations, it was actually overwhelming, and it was a success. And I remember the Thursday, which was the first day we went in on the 16th. We went in to feed the first ward, and we're pushing these trolleys down the corridor. The first ward we went in was the kangaroo ward at UTH Hospital. And I laughed because the kangaroo ward was Father Charles's favorite ward in UTH. No matter what he did, he'd always tell me, Brenda, we need to do this for the kangaroo ward. You know, this is what is required. You know, I laughed and I thought, Charles, you've engineered this from heaven. This is the first ward that we're feeding, the kangaroo ward. And seeing the smiles, the laughter. And I remember the mothers in kangaroo ward saying, you know what, we're really enjoying, but it's not enough. You know, can we have more? It just, you know, it gives you that sense of fulfillment. Like, we've done it, you know what I mean? And 2019 was the last year we did the feeding program. And the one thing that I remember about it was that Father Charles actually took a step back. And I remember going back to him and saying, why have you? And I even said, one dekelesha this year, you know what I mean? I'm running out alone, you're not there. He looked at me and said, but Brenda, you don't need me. And I thought, what do you mean I don't need you? But in God's infant wisdom, it was like he was preparing us, you know what I mean?
Like, you know,
he sort of like, I mean, he was there, but he let go. And we worked as a team, everything. I mean, he was on hand. When you say, I'll need this, he would do it. And I remember the week of the feeding program, he came to me and said, okay, what do you need me to do? I said, hallelujah, I need you. Here are all the receipts. I've bought all these things, and I need you to go around and doing the collections. And he did it. But the one thing that he also talked about the feeding program was that we also brought in the element of feeding the soul. He would always make sure that there were priests on hand to go through the wards, you know, to pray for people. So it was just not about feeding the belly, but it was also feeding the soul of someone. So it was coming out holistically and looking at someone and saying, you know what, we've done good today, we've brought hope. And the first time I remember that I fully met him in this program was after a novena that I attended at church. And the priest that year who did the novena challenged us in terms of we're called to do God's works.
course.
And I came out 9 days later looking at myself and thinking, what can you do? How can you do it? And I thought, I love organizing things, you know what I mean? And I went after Father Charles Chilinda. That was about, no novena when it happened was about March.
Yeah.
I kept on following him, and he would dodge me.
Yeah.
And one day I wrote out a check, and I said, Father Charles, if you don't think I'm serious, here, I'm putting my mouth where my money is. You know, Wangala, after he died, I discovered that year he had decided he wasn't going to do the feeding program. So he then calls Chembe and says, Chembe, we have a problem. And he says, what's the problem? He says, we've been challenged. There's a lady who's given us money for the feeding program, so we have to do it. You know what I mean?
Anyways, yeah.
But for me, it was also a place where I began to learn how to, to do God's works and everything. And he inspired all of us. Each one of us that is on the feeding committee has different strengths, as I said. So when I started working with him, he identified Chembe, he identified Priscilla. So there was a group of us that he now brought together.
Yeah.
But each one of us had a different skill set that actually made this program just work and be successful. And when we look at it, we all went to pray at the same parish. We greeted each other, but we never worked in the same forums. But you can imagine how we can identify out of so many people and bring these people together.
Wow.
And 4 years later, this program grew from initial seeding funding of 30,000 kwacha. 2019, we raised 450,000 kwacha. We were able to buy blankets, materials, equipment that the hospitals needed. And, it's as much as it's something that we do once a year, but the planning and everything that goes into it, when we sit back as a team and it finishes, it's like,
you look
wow,
back and say, wow,
yes.
Did we just do that?
Yes,
I like
yes.
that. Now, obviously, the feeding program is Father Chilinda's legacy.
Yes.
In the next 2, 3, 4 years from now, where do we see the feeding program?
Growing strength to strength. But what we've also done is that through the feeding program, we've also begun to understand that it wasn't his only baby. There were things that grew out of this feeding program that now we've begun to understand. Going back to UTH last year in December to do the feeding program, they said, through the feeding program, we began to understand that this team was a team that we could run to when there were problems outside the feeding program, and they would actually call up on Father Chilinda. I didn't realize that he had buried people out of the feeding program, you know what I mean, through that close collaboration. And any excess materials that we have, whether it's food items, people donate clothing and things like that, we took it into the various homes, and we did the same in 2021, where we said, okay, what is remaining? We've got food, we've got drinks and everything. And it was like, where did it go? You know what I mean? And we identified all the places, we still went back, gave them. So 3-4 years, I believe it will go strength to strength.
Wow.
He's not with us, but he has
spiritually, I think he's
spiritually he's still with us, and there's a strong team behind.
Sure. Now, I know it's been hard for most of us to find closure. Is this closure for you now, to finally let Father Chilinda go? Because most of us still hold on to him, we wish he was here, but the man actually did, train all of us to be independent. He actually let all of us say, you guys, you can run with this, you can do this on your own. Is this closure for you?
I think after doing the program in December, for me, it comes full circle, if I can say that, and brings closure, because personally, I feel like I'm able to fulfill and continue with the programs, the things that he handed over to us, and having the feeling of we didn't fail, we managed, he taught us well, he gave us the skill sets, you know what I mean? And also patting ourselves on the back to say, okay, when he said you don't need me, you know what I mean?
He meant it, actually.
He meant it, to say you can actually do this without me. So yes, it does bring closure for me, and to be able to say, you know what? I did well, Charlie. I did well.
Oh, lovely. Now let's imagine he was here.
Yeah.
What do you think he would have told you? After the feeding program.
After the feeding program. The one thing he always did was that, he would take off his collar at the end of the day and say, boy, alananaka, can I go now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want to go and have my cold castle. And I would say, Father, I release you, you know what I mean? But Mwangala, he would call me at 23 hours. So are the books in order? Are we able to account for the money?
Yeah.
So I knew that even when everybody else went back home to relax and continue, him and I continued. Because the one thing he taught me through this program was that we were accountable to the people that we gave the money to. And on those days, that day he would say, have we accounted for the money? Is everything in order? You know what I mean? And I'll say, yes, Father, everything is good to go.
Yeah.
Then he would say, so Kakumona Milo, are you coming to church tomorrow?
Yeah.
And I would want to say, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
But just his asking was not to say I had a choice, but it was
But
like,
to say, I want to see you.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the morning, it would be like a jubilation. We'd have breakfast together. We'd talk about what happened and our experiences, you know what I mean? And anyone who'd come into the breakfast room, he would basically talk about what the program did, how it has inspired him, how many people it's touched, and the impact, you know what I mean? That is something I miss and that we were not able to do this year.
Wow.
But it's but one of the things I was telling about you as we were getting ready for the program is I miss our fights because we would have fought.
And that was him, and one would think, hey, going to reconcile.
Yes. But at the end of it all, it would be like, boy, Napuisha. But I miss the fights. I actually miss the fights. And I remember on Saturday, I was actually telling the team on the 18th of December, which was our last day of the feeding program. And I kept on saying that, hey, at this point, Father Charles and I would have fought, you know what I mean? But what we tried to do even last year was to try and, with all the funding that we did, was to feed or dish out a plate in the way he would want, you know what I mean? His vision was on each plate, there should be everything that we cooked, you know what I mean? If there was chicken, that plate should have chicken, some meat, some fish, some pork, some rice. It was like, it should be a full plate. And you know, Mangala, we did that.
Wow.
We did that for them, you know what I mean? And it's fulfilling, but it's, it's bittersweet, if I can say that. It was bittersweet.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is that one lesson that you learned from Father Chilinda that you still apply in your day-to-day life?
I think the one thing is, in any challenge, have faith. And
he was a faith man.
he was a faith man. And, you know, you'd sit there and, you know, human nature would say, I need to raise a minimum of 250,000. Where is it going to? It's like you're setting up yourself to fail before you even start, you know what I mean? But the one thing he'd always tell me is, Brenda, have faith. And I would say, Father, but where's the money? He would say, have faith. And this one has been a true, I guess, challenge to have the faith without him there and continue to wake up every day and say, Brenda, it's okay. It's okay. And in the discussions last year, you know, you speak to God. I spoke to Charles and I said, you know, Charles, how do you leave me? How am I going to raise this money? I dreamt of him. And at the end of the dream, he gave me this parcel, which was money. And you know, you wake up feeling like, okay, Charles, I get the message. Have faith, everything is going to be well, you know what I mean? But it's having faith. In every situation, have faith. Through the good and the bad. That's the one thing I learned from him, having faith.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So your final message to the people that would like to be part of the feeding program?
The final message,
the end of the
I think one of the things that I grew to learn through this program is living by, you know, the gospel, where we're told, you know, you visit the sick who's in prison, you feed, because, I mean, you don't know who you're touching. Today you could be touching an angel. You could be touching someone who's on their last legs, you know what I mean, who's lost hope. So as we continue with the feeding program, I'd like to encourage people to join us, whether, you know, through monetary, through spiritually, through support,
Yeah.
even physically coming to actually help to
In the
cook
cooking,
and
yeah.
feed. And why do I say this is the first year I was actually part of the program, there was an old man who was in bed. He had no bedsider. And one of the youth at the church was attending to him. This man broke down. And I remember Father Charles now saying, what has happened? What did you do wrong? And this man said, I have been treated with dignity
Yeah.
for the first time that I've been in this hospital. I didn't have a plate. She found a plate for me. I haven't had proper food.
Yeah.
You have given me food. And that tells you what that one meeting can do for somebody.
Sure.
And those are my final words. Please come and join us. Please come and cook with us. And yes, let's take this to the
Yeah.
next level. Yes.
Nice. Nice.
That's Father Charles in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Touching lives. Let's continue
He's
touching
still
lives.
touching lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So Brenda, thank you so much for coming and talking about it's actually strange that we're talking about Father Chilinda in this manner. I never thought that we'd still
Yeah.
continue talking about him in this manner. But hey, such is life.
Yes. It is. Yeah.
So there you have it. I was talking to Brenda Walia, who has been, or rather who is now leading the feeding program, an initiative of Father Charles Chilinda. We continue talking to different people that had interacted with Father Chilinda differently. Today I'm joined by one of his friends, Mr. Edward Sefuke. Mr. Sefuke, welcome to this special episode of Ignite Remembers Father Charles Chilinda.
Thank you, Mandala. Thank you.
Now I know it just doesn't feel right for us to talk about Father Chilinda in this manner, but I guess such is life. Now I know you were one of his closest friends, and every time we talk about you quite a lot. So I'd like to find out, when did you meet him and how did you meet Father Chilinda?
Firstly, maybe a correction. I still feel that the present tense still applies to me.
I know.
Because he still seems to
Still
be around me and guide me. So I often speak about him in the present tense. And when did I meet him? Sometimes it feels like I met him at birth, but in reality, I only recall meeting him when I was at the university. He joined us at some point. I was doing a program there, and I was then quite loud at the university, involved in student politics and the type of thing that gets Father Chilinda going, and that's where we first met. And I did not know that he was a priest initially. I just met him as a person, and he would never wear a collar at the university. So that's how I knew him.
Wow. Now take us back to those days, at the university. Was he still, it's also hard for me to talk about him in the past. But what kind of a Chilinda was he at university? Was he the same charismatic, bubbly Father Chilinda that we knew?
He was extremely charismatic, and people always wondered why he was charismatic, had strong opinions about things, but he never joined student politics. And that's the one thing that gave him away, to say there's a secret about this guy. Why he, then we were always paranoid about being infiltrated by intelligence elements. So when you saw a person who had strong opinions and but never got involved in the rough things, then you became slightly suspicious, to say, this person, why doesn't he push with us in the same direction? Why is he on the fence? And then it took a while before the secret was revealed that he cannot.
Because he was a priest.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. So how would you describe him as a friend, you know, as a priest?
The fact it's, I was talking to Brenda from the feeding program soon after his passing, and I was saying, how can one replace the roles that Father Chilinda played? And I said, you know, when I look at the people that I know, you probably need 5 people to make one Charles Chilinda, because he was a multidimensional person, and I often said that he was positively schizophrenic, because he had many personalities all in one. You could see the very brash and personality in him, but at the same time, the next time you are dealing with a situation, you see an extraordinarily compassionate person. And but because he's so easygoing, blends in any situation, you would not necessarily relate it to a person who is compassionate. He was not compassionate because he was a priest, but you could see that it's actually coming from the soul, that he's compassionate and wants to help people who need help. So it's difficult to characterize him. He was full of energy.
Too much energy.
Too much energy. And I always wondered where he got the energy from. But he could be in 2 places at one time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was so fearless, very courageous, and one wonders, where was he getting all that from?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk. I know he held you very close and dear. And I know this is something that you didn't want to talk about, but he believed in you so much. Where do you think that was coming from?
I will never know. I will never know, because I think I probably successfully managed to lie to him about the type of person that I was, because I do not belong in his universe. And for him to have confidence in me is something that is a bit of a surprise, because I simply did not belong in his universe. Yeah.
Because I remember every time would say, you know what, Mangala, what fed? And you pick the phone and call you for something, and you know it would happen. Now, what are some of the lessons that you learned from Father Chilinda's life in particular?
The lessons, the biggest lesson which I'm still grappling with, because having been close to his universe, in terms of being a people person earlier in my life, and then I've become very shy and remote, is the lesson that he reminds me is how to be all things to all people, which is what he was. I often follow Bishop Barron's lectures and sermons on YouTube, and there's one sermon which really touched me, which I had not really seen things like that before, about what Jesus was, and that Jesus was all things to all people. He interacted freely, without prejudice, with sinners, tax collectors, and people who were seen as unsavory in society at the time, but at the same time also was kept the company of good men. So how can you not judge other people, but you welcome everyone equally, and just take them for what they are, and in making them comfortable. For Father Chilinda, it was an opportunity also to be a pastor to them, because once he welcomes them, they feel comfortable, then he's able to speak brutally frankly to them. Yeah.
Wow, nice. I know you've had a lot of memorable moments with him, but can you share one that probably a lot of us don't know about?
Some of the most memorable moments that I have with Father Chilinda is when I joined him on what I call some of his errands of mercy, patriotic errands of mercy, when there is a crisis and people do not fully understand the extent of the crisis or how much what may be happening in the background could impact on national stability and everything. And he picks up the phone and says, Edward, I need an assistant. Can you follow me? Let's go and talk to these men, usually politicians. And you join him, and in some cases, because you know someone who knows someone, you facilitate the initial contact. And once you get there, just the way he would break them down in a very friendly way and cause them to make very tough decisions that could negatively impact their political career, but to do something for the sake of the nation is something that I found quite remarkable, and I tried to see if I could do it, but I absolutely still cannot be able to, with a smile, ask someone to give up something that they have fought for all their life and convince them to do that. Yeah.
Wow, what a lesson that was. Now, I know you know that father was very passionate when it came to production. I mean, he loved TV so much. He loved the camera. I think that was his life. He spent most of his life doing production work. You would see him behind the cameras. And I actually feel his energy right now that he's here with us behind the cameras. And I think that's a legacy that he built. As a friend, you know, as a close friend, what are you doing to ensure that that legacy lives on?
I tell you, when, again, I'll refer to the conversation I had with Brenda Chimfwembe. We tried to break down some of his personalities and what I could call some of his most important ministries, and say there was this aspect, the feeding program, there was this aspect of peacekeeping, if I could call them that, missions. And then, of course, above all else was his style of evangelism through media. And that is an aspect that will require a lot of people, all of us, to see how we can contribute to that. I'll make a confession that I passed the studio several times, and I have the desire to stop by, but up to today I have completely resisted entering the studio because I suppose because of the restrictions and social distancing during COVID times. I still feel that I still feel like he's there, but I haven't seen him because I haven't gone to the studio, I haven't run into him at St. Ignatius. So it's been a big psychological barrier, despite taking note of the fact that this is one of the things that all of us, his friends, will have to keep alive. I have failed to just enter the premises of the studio. Yeah.
Wow. I think it's the same for a lot of people. Now, as we come to the end of this program, I know a lot of people are struggling with closure, me inclusive, you know. It feels like he's gone out for his usual, fishing or, game rides. But I think it's important that all of us now come to a realization and say he's no longer with us. What would you like to tell people like myself who are struggling with closure? It's been a year now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a difficult one, Wanda. It's difficult to give advice to someone where I need that advice myself. Yeah. So I really don't know how I could advise other people about that. But the only thing that would be appropriate to say is that we'll keep him alive by supporting his ministries in whatever way one is able to. So I suppose that's the best that I can do, and I myself need to start walking that walk, that talk rather. So perhaps it's time to now stop mourning and get on with it, get on with the work that he left for us. Yeah.
Wow. It's never easy.
Yeah.
But I think it's time for all of us to move on.
That's right.
I know he would have wanted us to move on and to keep his dream alive.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And, yeah.
Thank you.
So there you have it. I was talking to Mr. Edward Sefuke, one of Father Chilinda's closest friends. This has been Mwangala Chakalashi Santos. Join me as I continue talking to different people. And we continue talking to different people that had interacted with Father Chilinda. A lot of people have come through just to share their story and also for us to check exactly where they are. Today I'm joined by Jean Mandela, who is one of the representatives of the Rwandese people living in Zambia. He had a close relationship with Father Chilinda, and today is here to share with us on how this last year has been for him. Mr. Mandela, welcome.
Thank you, Mangala. I'm very amazed and I'm grateful that I've considered me for this interview to speak as one of Rwandese. Maybe what can I add? I can add on it. I'm one of those who do live in Zambia and have refugee status. Those time around we are carrying the status called the people of special concern. But as we came here, as asylum seekers, and we granted the refugee status. Though along the way, there was this exercise constitution clause that I lost our refugee status. Anyway, as in Zambia, to me, especially today, it's 24th. I've been in Zambia 25 years, 1 month, 10 days.
Wow, that's so precise.
I entered to Zambia on the 15th of December, 1996.
And you've lived in Zambia ever since?
Ever since I've been in Zambia.
Great. How did you meet Father Chilinda?
The first encounter with Father Chilinda, there was a funeral. So that lady could be my mother-in-law. She was a cousin to my late father-in-law. Okay, she died in Mansa, but the mass took place in Lusaka. So we struggled to have heard mass. So that lady used to be the principal for Mansa Trades. So now by then, she was still alive. She was her fellow principal. She intervened. So she went to talk to the Father Chilinda. That I was celebrity they were came mass at certain shares. So I was surprised to see that young priest full of charisma. That we could be, which year? That could be 2004, 2003, if I'm not wrong. So that's how, what can I say? I could say that it was a love at first sight.
For him,
Yeah, for him. That's the first encounter with Father Chilinda. Afterward, during the course of my duty, we started to be talking to each other, we started to be meeting each other, so we started now to be closer and closer. Until now I could go to see him at personal level. Without going to see him as a priest, maybe at personal matters you can go to see him and you can discuss.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now I know you interacted with him on so many occasions, especially that you are also a media personality in your own rights. What are some of the memorable moments that you can remember of Father Chilinda?
One which is close to my heart. It's when it was during the Easter Mass, that the time Tasalongo was being baptized, he made an appeal to President Longo. If that he made an appeal, he pleaded him. If as a president he can give citizens to the refugee. That one, I have to record that statement on social media. No, you guys don't. You have got enough. I've got a lawyer, so to say, I've got somebody who was take the refugees issue advocacy at another level. So I have to make sure that his statement went viral.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, as a priest, sometimes when you talk to a priest, it's a personal matter. It's not things you can take up the sort of the public. When are the personal issues, I could call him up, Father, I need you. Oh, when we could meet in the town doing his errands, I can stop him. Father, I'm lucky I'm adopted to you. Okay, may you spare me 5 minutes? Could say, thank you. So I could park his car. I said, no, sorry. Even if I'm on hurry for some meetings or some other things, but please
Stop.
feel free and tell me your issue. We could discuss, we could exchange notes, we could change ideas afterward, we could part away.
Now, I know you're talking on behalf as one of the people, you know, from Rwanda. I remember there was a time that Father fed a number of people at Kalemba Hall. What is the feel? What was the feel? What was the message like? You know, what was it like when the message got out there that Father has passed on from the community of Rwanda?
I don't know how I forgot that one. It was in April 2016 where these riots targeting non-Zambian shops. Most Rwandese are affected. So I was going around and trying to document what is going on. So now I heard that people are going to seek a shelter at St. Richard's parish. So I had to rush there. When I found it, I found the Father Chilinda. Of course, it was Father Chilinda. I almost fainted. Not because I was disappointed, because I did not expect that.
Gesture.
That is a gesture. For sure, I found people. I tried to mobilize resources, try to mobilize the public so they can try to help him out so nobody sleep outside, or nobody goes without eating. That is, I don't know how I can describe that gesture.
Right.
Now when I got the news of his death, I couldn't believe. And sometimes when you get news, you could wondering, am I dreaming, or am I dreaming, or I don't know, something has happened to me. I had to make a cause, and the cause over again to ascertain for sure I heard if it was true.
Yeah.
Afterward, I could make myself go to a corner to end the sob, try to eat, because there's my one is what to believe. When there is we believe that death is a normal course of life.
Yeah.
When you are born, you lived next to death.
Is to die.
But for him, no, that was not time.
Yeah.
It was not time for him.
It was
to
one of the most painful days. Huh?
Now, when we come over the day of sending off to an invitation, because it's supposed to go by invitation.
Yeah.
I said, no, it can't be. Even without an invitation, I have to attend his burial. Because it was to honor him. Again, it was what I say, to present that my community which could not make it. So when I reached the Kasisi Cemetery, you know that place, it was very easy to set up security who could be shoot at people that have invitation.
Yeah.
I found these police officers who saw me without invitation started laughing.
Yeah.
I told them, thank you for smiling at me.
Yeah.
You know that what I came for. So that, no, you don't have invitation. Yes, I must agree, I don't have invitation. But invitations to people who want to have a seat. I don't need a seat. Just I need to be around and to take my distance, to do my work, to take my pictures.
Yeah.
Lucky enough, they burned a little for me. So I don't know, I can appreciate them. So that I managed to be there. Again, there was a time to bury. The choir was not allowed to reach at the cemetery, at the grave side.
Yeah.
So me, I was able to go there. So I have to, if you can make a harmonica, I have to fill the gap by playing that harmonica. If you can get that clip, you can see me there playing my harmonica.
Yeah.
I thought that was what I could do
To honor him.
within my means to honor him and to while presenting my community and honoring him.
Great. What are some of the lessons that you've learned from his life?
This priest who I post Second Vatican what do you call it, synod, Vatican synod.
Yeah.
They are amazing because they approach to gospel. I'm not trying to compare with that generation. No, this generation they came up with a language. They managed to break it down the gospel so that you can understand it. Whenever they do preach and they do practice, you feel amazed. You feel when you see them exercise their ministry, you feel amazed. You feel that I wish I can be close to them, so I can try to be as well as they are. Father Chilinda was one of them. Being a Jesuit, Jesuit they are above average. Yes. It was amazing to see him where he was preaching. Not only doing his sermons in today's life, but somebody who can call a spade, there's somebody who can approach anybody, regardless his creed, regardless his status, his social status. You know, I don't know. You could try to, it's what I say, to contribute to have people enjoy lives spiritually and materially.
Great.
The words are not enough to describe Father Chilinda. Anyway, it was a father.
Sure. How would you like us to remember him? And this is for all of us.
To remember him is to meet him. But can you feel his shoes? His shoes that too. Yeah, he took the bat to her.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can come up with a fund. I wish people can mobilize ourselves to set up like Father Chilinda Foundation. Or does that name must live? His legacy must live on.
How would you like to contribute to his legacy in your own small way?
I was telling that he said to a bat to her. But I continue on advocacy of refugees. I try to talk to the relevant authorities that also for that advocate that refugees could be given refugee status. And for sure that's what I tried to underline in my open letter to the president. When I wrote an open letter to the president, at the time I was looking 25 years in Zambia. That is last month in December. I was talking about these children born to a couple whereby both parents are refugees, a father and a mother. Those people, those children do inherit the status of their parents. But if you look at in other countries, whoever is born with the soul of that country, it doesn't get automatically the citizenship. That's why that is special which I got from Father Chilinda. They could do other many to look at people who are victims of this social justice. If there is a way I can be able to help them on my own, I will be trying myself. I will try. But Father Chilinda, as I told you, his shoes are too big to fit. He said to the battle.
Wow, I know. I mean, we all just have to pick one or two lessons from his life and see how we can keep, not see, but to make sure that his legacy lives on. Now, I know you have a musical instrument, and I know you'd like to play something for Father Chilinda. So maybe as we come to the end of the program, is there anything you'd like to say? Because I'd like us to end with that musical instrument.
As I told you, that find that this name could do, this legacy, this name can live on by trying to establish a Father Chilinda Foundation. That's the only way these people have never met him, people who have known him, who can feel that you are still with him. That could be my closing remarks.
Oh wow! Thank you so much, Mr. Jean Mandela, for taking time to come and share with us.
Seigneur, reste avec moi. Fais qu'un de jour en jour, grandir dans ton amour, plus près de toi, mon Dieu, plus près de toi. Thank you to invite me.
Thank you so much.
I'm humbled.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We continue talking to different people just to catch up and find out how they've been doing for the last 1 year. As you all know, we are on Ignite Remembers Father Chilinda, where we're talking to different people just to find out how they've been coping the last slightly over 365 days. I'm joined by Mr. Felix Hara, who has been a parishioner at St. Ignatius for many, many years. He's here to put in a voice also on how it's been the last 1 year. Welcome, Mr. Hara.
Thank you so much, Mangala. It's a pleasure. I feel honored to be here.
Okay, great. Now, we have continued talking to different people just to find out how the last 1 year has been. I know Father Chilinda was very close to you, and especially that you've been a parishioner at St. Ignatius for many, many years, and particularly in the choir. Just tell us a bit on what do you remember on Father Chilinda, or maybe the question should be, when did you meet Father Chilinda and how did you meet him?
Yeah, first of all, Father Chilinda was not just only close to me, but he was also very close to the choir. We interacted with him very, very well on so many occasions. Just to say that I have known Father Chilinda from 2004 up to the time he passed on. To try and find proper words to describe who Charles was is not just possible, but to attempt to say what my personal experience was with him and at large with the choir. So I just want to say that Father Chilinda was a very generous person, very, very generous person. His actions in a way of doing things showed. He was selfless as well, and he was outgoing. He was a unifier. There are so many instances, you can cite where Father Chilinda Charles came in to try and bring in people together vis-a-vis the politicians. One other very important occasion that I remember personally, and that touched me most as an individual, was when Father Chilinda was called by myself at 23 hours late in the night to come and say prayers for my ailing niece. So, he came without any difficulties at all. And he was there, he prayed for my niece, and before we knew it, my niece had passed on. So, that's one of the so many occasions that I personally had an interaction with Father Chilinda. I'm sure that a lot of other parishioners can speak about him, in a similar manner. Father Chilinda was someone who was, humorous. He was fond of joking with people. He was so outgoing, such that if you had a challenge or had some difficulty, he was easily approachable. You didn't have to fear. One other thing that struck me most was Father Chilinda would call you back, even if the number that you called on was not a number familiar to him. He would call you back, and a lot of parishioners have spoken about this. I just want to say again that he was very generous, and he really wanted to find out, for instance, why you called, and he could call you back. Yeah. The other thing was that, there was this feed program, which he initiated personally. This has touched a lot of people, not only at our parish, but I think throughout Lusaka and extended to the country. Some other people, I understand, have now started the feed program because Father Chilinda started this at our parish. It's a pity he's gone, but I think he's left a legacy where a lot of us are going to emulate him in the way we're going to carry ourselves from our day-to-day lives. He was a very prayerful man, I must say. Every time when there was time for Mass and you looked at the news later and found out that he is the one who was going to say Mass, you felt very nice in your heart. The way he portrayed his messages during the homily was very, very nice, and it touched a lot of people. The other thing that I want to talk about is, the way he carried himself during the parish activities. Whenever Father Joe Kinney left for his holidays in Europe, Father Chilinda would be left in charge as acting priest. And, he carried out his duties as acting priest very well. And when Father Kinney came back, he'd always say, no, look, I didn't have to worry about how the parish would be managed, because I knew that Charles, would be there to manage the parish. And that was true. How many times he joked and said, I hope I can reach the amount which Father Kinney reached last time when he was here. So, that's all I can say for now, and we can speak here till midnight tonight, because there are a lot of things that I think that Father Chilinda did. But I think that, for me and for everyone else, for my fellow choir members and everyone in the parish, he has left a legacy, something that you can look at and take one or two things to manage one's life as an individual and as a choir and as a parish.
You've touched on something that is very important. You've talked about him having left a legacy. So what is that one thing that you'd like to do to ensure that his legacy lives on?
There is a prayer to love without measure.
The love of measure?
Yes, the love of measure without...
To love without
yes,
measure.
absolutely. I am keeping a nephew who was a wayward child. He'd been gone away from us. We tried to look after him, and he was just impossible. So lately he fell sick, and I decided that he can't manage life on his own. We took him down to Mom's clinic. At that moment I decided I should keep him. So I'm looking after him. So during Mass on Saturday, which Father Patrick Mulemi, Father Mulemi said the words which Father Chilinda said, you must love one another without measure. So I reflected on the situation of my nephew and decided I'm going to keep him regardless of the situation. He's very sick, and I said I'm going to look after him because this is my responsibility. So just to say that, when I looked at the way Father Chilinda was carrying himself out there, I thought that, this is something that I can emulate. It was a legacy for me, and I should put it into practice.
Having known Father Chilinda for many, many years, what are some of the lessons you have learned from his life?
He's self-giving. To one thing, for instance, answering phone calls. responding back to a call which perhaps came through to you, and finding out why someone called. Because I think people don't just call for no reason. They'll call you sometimes to say hello. Sometimes maybe they're in trouble. So for me, you know, every time when Father Chilinda, when I called him, he called me back. And a lot of other parishioners have testified that, you know, when they called him, he was able to call them back. He was able to call them back. And so for me, a lesson that perhaps it goes a long way is that I should care for other people. You know, when they call me, if there's a situation out there where I think I can, you know, help out as an individual, I should come out. You know, I should be selfless and then help out if I can.
Great. Now, Father Chilinda worked very closely with Father Mulemi. You just talked about Father Mulemi.
Yes.
And I'm taking you back to Sunday Mass, where he reminded all of us to say, you know, let's let him go, let him go. And I think that's the word that all of us are holding on to. But for those people that could not make it for Mass, what is your word for them? I know we picked a lot. You know, we were being reminded to say, you know, we let Father Chilinda go. And I think 1 year down the line, we have to let him go. But I want you to say something to, you know, the people that couldn't make it for Mass. You know, to how do we let him go?
Well, I think we should let him go by taking examples which he himself set out in the way he carried himself in his day-to-day life. There are a lot of things that he did, which I think stretched out not only to the local community of St. Ignatius, but I think outward there. I mean, I've spoken about the feed program. I think that that is a very good example of being selfless and being outgoing, you know, helping other people that may need our help. And then secondly, to be always there for one another. I think that is very, very important. Father Charles Chilinda was there for everyone, you know. You people just, when you start a conversation, someone would always come up with their situation on how their experience was with Father Chilinda.
Great. Well, it's good that you took time to come and talk to us.
Yeah, thank
I
you
know
very
that the 11:30 choir was one of the choirs that Father Chilinda depended on. He would call you at any time and
Yes,
you'd be there.
indeed. Yes.
And it
yes.
was good to talk to particularly you because you've known him for a very long time.
Thank you.
And it's good that you made time to come and just add to the program.
Thank you, Mangala.
Hello and welcome to this special episode where we remember the late Father Charles Muchinshi Chilinda. Today we decided to visit the family of Father Charles Chilinda, Mr. and Mrs. Chipwende. They opened their home to us and to just talk about the early life of Father Charles Chilinda, who he was. I know he was different things to different people, but let's just get to find out from his family on who Father Charles Chilinda was. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Chipwende.
Hello, Mangala.
Hello.
I feel you are the ones to welcome me, but in this case, I'll say welcome to this special episode.
Thank you.
Now, today we're talking about Father Charles Chilinda. I know we've spoken to a number of people and they've given us, you know, their side of story on who Father Charles Chilinda was to them. In this case, I'll start with you, Ma'am. He was your brother.
Yes.
And probably what a lot of people would like to find out is who he was, taking us back to his early life.
It's difficult to know where to begin. He was always a very precocious little boy as a child. He had a huge sense of fun. He wanted to make life exciting wherever he was, even with his peers, as a young boy. I would say there was not even a dull moment when they were out there with his friends interacting. He was just different, even as he was growing up. He wanted to share himself with his friends so much. And when a friend of his had a problem, he was the first one to go and say, oh, let's go and give support to that one. And they were young. At the time that I remember him with friends, maybe they were in their, they were 10 or 11. I was in my 20s already. So, so he never lost that trait until the end of his life.
So where was the interest? When did the interest of him being a priest start? Because usually they say, you know, when you're a young boy or girl, you usually say, I want to be a doctor. What did he want to be? Did he always want to be a priest?
His dad was the one who was instrumental in shaping his life towards the priesthood, because his father used to be a catechist, part-time catechist, because he was a businessman as well. So he always said, I would wish you'd work for God. And at that time, Charles was saying, well, I really hope I can fulfill my father's dream, but we shall see. He always left it open and said, we shall see.
Mr. Chikwende, what kind of a relationship did you have with your brother-in-law?
Indeed, he was actually beyond brother-in-law. To me, he was a personal friend. He was a personal friend. We could get out together, talk about anything, professional discussions, academic, and so on. But we spent a lot of time together socially, as friends, more than brother-in-law. He would come here. Malamu, let's just go out. Let's leave this sister of mine alone. So we go out 1 hour, 2 hours, then we come back and sit down there, maybe have something to eat. Then off he goes. So he was more a personal friend beyond beyond being my brother-in-law.
He was just there. Now, for many who remember Father Chilinda, he was very charismatic, you know, very, very energetic, and he was a go-getter, you know. Again, taking you back to his early life, you know, what are some of the things that you remember? You know, we would like to find out, was he a troublemaker? Because he was always outspoken. And one wonders, would he always find himself in trouble because of his character and nature?
I wouldn't say that really. I would say he liked troubleshooting, which does not necessarily mean he was, you know, that he was a troublemaker. He liked to stir things up a bit so that you are all not just sitting there. He wanted, you know, he wanted to get things done. That's what I remember. As I remember one time, they liked play acting with his friends. When one of the elders in the village liked drinking a lot, they would say, let's show him so that he doesn't drink that much. So they would dress up in white bed sheets and go and sit by the roadside. And when the man who was inebriated a lot comes along, they go in the road and pretend to be ghosts, and you know, that kind of thing. That's what he was. Yeah.
Oh wow. Now, Mr. Chikwende, having such a brother-in-law, I mean, who was just fearless, he would call a spade a spade. Were you not intimidated, you know, thinking, if I do anything wrong to the sister, he would just come, you know, on me and say, why have you done this to my sister?
No. In fact, he encouraged me and encouraged us as a pair to live as a model family. Okay, and from that point of view, he could always give us advice, as opposed to intimidating me, for example, frightening me. You don't do this to my sister. He never did that. Yeah, he never did that. But if anything, he would say, "Vachikwende, leo tamkwete lupiae, Okay, I think kuna mpela kwa 5 kwacha mushtleko sister wanda akabwa. We like, oh sorry, we like a drink.
Of course, I mean, father also loved it.
Even father himself says, that's what we said, this anyway, coffee kamonga na mkwat, you know, that kind of thing. So he liked to encourage family life, as opposed to wanting to intimidate or to instill fear in a relationship. Yeah, he encouraged us to live a happy life, and more reminded us to say, look, every so often, when the shami mwenda ku church last week, I hope tamaye kubale. If you're able to go to the bar, you should be able to come to the church. That kind of encouraging us to live on a positive life. That's what I want to remember particularly about him. And he never held anything back in terms of trying to encourage young children also. Okay, Gabaisa, you guys stay away from adverse things like alcohol. I don't want to see you touching this bottle. Na mwewe my parents, mwela tumaba ichamuka mkumiletelo over fridge. Yo, mule ya mwewe ne senda, you know, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah. So he was more an encourager, than anybody than trying to impart negative ideas or negative thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I wish he was here to answer this question for himself, but I think Ma, you'll be the closest one to answer this question. Did he at any time feel like giving up on becoming a priest? Because I think that's a journey that, you know, it has its own ups and downs. Did he ever come to say,
well, not really, no. Because I remember once I was traveling out of the country, there was a meeting in Ethiopia and we had to pass through Nairobi, and I went to visit him at Ekima, and that year they had withheld the permission for him to be ordained as deacon along with these other colleagues. Most of the scholastics who were being ordained wanted to protest on his behalf because they felt it was wrong for him to be held back when he was the obvious leader among them. He was always in front trying to, you know, to make sure things went right. And then to hear that he was not being ordained, they all wanted to protest on his behalf. But he said, no, I don't want us to go against the, you know, one of the most cardinal rules in priesthood, that of obedience, by protesting. If God has willed it that I will be a priest, one day it shall be. So that's how he was not ordained that time in 1998. Yeah.
Wow. Now, what role was he playing, you know, when we come to family? Of course, country-wise, we know that he was a unifier, a peacemaker, and a lot of us relate. You know, whenever we talk about love, you cannot talk about love without talking about Father Chilinda.
Right.
Now, let's bring it down to family. What kind of a family member was he?
You know, he was like an anchor, actually, because even when you had a function, you have maybe a small dinner as family, before he comes, you say, we are not complete here. He's not here. That's the kind of person, central, pivotal person he was. We all felt special. He loved family. And each one of us felt, oh, this person, he exuded love. It's beyond description, really.
I know.
It's beyond description.
Mr. Chilinda, I know you played a very, very critical role, you know, when he was starting Loyola Productions. And I know he used to come and get one of your, you know, vans to go for their different projects. What was that journey like for him?
In fact, we felt a special recognition, I think, in that respect, because, like you said, he would come, and then she quit the motor car, but I've got a trip to make. Can I use your vehicle? And we said, yeah, well, why not? Okay, he's got his job to do, what and what. So, yes, Father, you can. Don't worry, I'll pay the expenses involved, but you just use your motor vehicle. So we will allow him, we will take the vehicle, can come back maybe 1 week, 10 days later. Fine. The other time, when he just got, when Loyola got their new Land Cruiser, they didn't have a spare wheel. They said, Lam, can you have a spare wheel? In fact, we had 2 spare wheels for our vehicle. I need one vehicle, one spare wheel. We gave it. We gave it. So we felt that recognition, you know, as a family could come to, because, although it did relate to his work, so to speak, okay, but we felt we needed to assist him where he needed support. Assist or support where he needed help. And he was, our property, whatever we had, was at his disposal. We could not hold back anything that we had to try and help out wherever we could. Yeah.
Did you believe in his dream? Did you believe in his dream, the Loyola dream?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, it was a concept. He is, in fact, training. Okay, I think that once I did the mass communications, and after that, I think he went for his masters and things like this, all communications. So when he started this new concept, introducing this project within the church, we were encouraged to say, look, let's support him as much as we can. Let's let this dream come true. It will help us as a church to move forward. So we were available to support him in that respect. Yeah. Yeah. And we still think it was a good project which was introduced. Yes.
Ma, it's been 300 and I would say 365, about 370 days now without him. It's not easy for all of us. And I know this was his home. He would come here almost, you know, in a week he would come 3-4 times. How has it been for you the last 1 year? In fact, for both of you.
Very strange, actually. Very strange. Because we still feel that at any time he would drive in calling Bakalamba, you know, and that feels strange that it's not happening. Because to begin with, it was like a nightmare and we would wake up any time. But now as time goes on, the reality is sinking in that he really is gone. And it's hard. It's hard.
Looks like a dream, isn't it? Looks like a dream. You still can't believe that he's actually gone. Okay, every so often we start imagining, oh, Father Charlie is still there. He could pop in any time. But he's gone. And like we've said, when there's a small gathering, maybe we're meeting for lunch, 1 or 2 friends, 3 friends, we always imagine that if a Father Charles came in, okay, it will lighten up the moment, you know, and when he does turn up every so often, everybody becomes so happy. Yeah, he attracted, affection from everybody, you know, and whenever visitors came to visit us, every so often, one of the first questions they would ask, how is Father Charles? So he came at the top of the people that were asking about. Yeah, how is Father Charles? Yeah.
21st January 2021, Thursday, around 19 hours to be precise, news hit the country that Father Chilinda was no more. How did you take that news, and who broke that news for you?
It was actually Kauma who called me. I had sent him a text message because Kauma was at the bedside of his uncle. And Kauma being in the medical profession, it was, it was more appropriate that somehow we got access to enter the room, and he stayed there until he died. So Kauma is the one had sent a text. I said, Kauma, you are too quiet there. Is everything okay? Until around 20, that's when he called and said, Father Chilinda is normal. I couldn't believe it. I just kept on saying, hey. It was so unreal. Like, I went into a trance. Some days I think would be better skipped because I wouldn't want to go through that again.
And how has it been in terms of your healing? Because I think that's what is important for all of us, me inclusive. We have to go through a process where we now have to let him go and we live on. I know it's very hard, but how are you getting to a place of healing?
It's hard, but time helps. Time helps. But we can't just say because a year has passed, so now we are healed. We can't. It's gradual. But as time goes and acceptance creeps in, and we are able to accept our situation and basically see how we can move forward without him, God will help us with time.
Yeah, I think that's the overriding word. That okay, fine. It's very difficult to recover or to heal in that sense, not completely. But then we just have to accept it has happened, and this is the nature of life. Okay, we are born, tomorrow we are gone. So those of us who remain, we accept it has happened, and let's see how we live tomorrow. But the memories will never really die. No.
Sure.
No. Never die.
Well, for people that were close to Father, I think in his last days, he kind of prepared us. It's just that sometimes we may not know.
We are in denial.
Exactly. Did he do the same for family?
I think he tried, because 3 days before he was due to go, he came here and said, Bakalamba, can you get me some things so that I can go and start steaming?
I remember that day on Monday.
So I went around the yard and got lemongrass, got this, and put everything in a huge plastic bag. And he said, keep away from me. I don't want you to be close to me. And I remember my daughter Mkolo was around, and she said, just wait, let me get you some grapes. And he was able to get the grapes at a distance. He didn't want family to be close to him. So that is what I remember. I think that was a big red flag, but we didn't want to see it like that.
True. I remember that Monday he actually came to the office and he was not feeling very well. And he said, I'm going to my sister's place to go and get some neem leaves and indeed that evening he called to say, now Wishwa, I bought those things and I was able to steam and I'm feeling much better. But I think if Father Chilinda was seeing us now, what do you think he would have been telling all of us, especially you, the beloved sister?
I think I'm sure he would say, Bakalamba, just get up and go out there and help those who need you, instead of wallowing in self-pity and killing yourself with grief. Because, time is of the essence. We need to get out there and help those who were relying on him. And I think it's important, even as family, to remember that we are there for each other and can do whatever we can do within our limited means as family. Because we shouldn't say that because Charles is gone now, the family disintegrates. That's not what he meant by love without measure. Yes.
True. And Mr. Chikwende, what do you think he would tell you if he was here?
It's actually so difficult to put such things together. But like I said, Charles would always want to encourage us, look, let bygones be bygones. Let's just continue to live together. There might be people who may want to think that maybe Charles favored certain people and so on. But then Charles's role was to try and unite every member of the family. He could go to every home of the family, which perhaps we are not able to do ourselves, maybe because of our age or whatever. But other members of the family who we may have, even within the city, may not be able to visit us, but Charlie was able to do that. So, and Charlie's role was to try and encourage. Normally addressing her. When did you last visit so and so? Okay, that kind of thing. So he was trying to bring us together, and I'm sure that even today he would want us to unite as family, as friends.
Great. Now, obviously, this was his family, and I think he would be in the best position to, free all of us, so that we can move on. What encouragement would you give to, I know a lot of people are still grieving, a lot of people are still mourning, a lot of people have not found closure. So what would you like to, what is your encouragement to such people?
I think, Mangala, there's no easy remedy to grieving. What I can just say is that I think the more we meet and maybe recollect the things that made him what he was, and if we're able to recall some things, some amusing anecdotes about the way we lived with him, I think it would encourage us to laugh a bit more, and he loved laughter. So if we are able to laugh about some things which he did, maybe it would help us to get over the pain of losing him. But only time will tell. Only time will help us, really.
I love what you said, Ma. When we spoke on the phone, you said, Father Chilinda he was everything to people. He loved people differently, but what would unify him is love. At the end of the day, whether he had a special heart for all of us. Is that something that you think we can emulate? You think you can emulate from your little brother?
I wish. But he had such a large heart. I don't think any of us will fit into his shoe, actually. Yeah. He had such a big heart.
So he's left this gap even in the family.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. So how do you choose to remember him? I'll start with Dad. How would you like to remember him?
Charlie, out of all the people that I've known, or the friends that I've known, but him was friend, family. Charlie stood out, I think still stands out, even today, although he's gone, even today still stands out as one special person with the special qualities, okay, the qualities which are impossible really to copy. You cannot copy Charlie's style, okay? It's impossible. So I like to remember him from that point of view. It's a special creation, if I can use that word, it's a special creation. And it's a pity that he's gone. But we will not forget in my mind, okay, because I still see him today, fresh. Okay, he's speaking, he's laughing, he was full of laughter. So, such a person, okay, to forget him really, to me, is impossible. Yeah, he always remain active in our minds.
Wow.
Yeah.
And for you, Mom?
Oh, what really stands out for most people who were around him was his open-handedness, his generosity. He would never see anybody, go hungry without him touching his pocket and facilitating that person to have something to eat. And that applied to even the village in Chilubi. Whenever he went and he found people wallowing in some kind of distress, he would always try to find a solution to ease their situation.
Wherever they are.
Whoever they were. Even if they were not his direct family.
Yeah.
He really loved people. So that saying, that motto of his, the measure of love is to love without measure, was so appropriate to him, so apt. And I wish God would imbue in all of us that love without measure.
Wow, nice. Now, he loved to sing.
Hey.
Do you know do you have any song? A favorite song that you used to sing? We can sing it together or join in.
No, let's not go there, please, Mangala, because the last time he came on his birthday in 2020, he said, Bakalamba, let's sing. And I said, Charlie, my voice is gone. Maybe it's because of the old age, my chords are gone. Says, no, it's okay, Bakalamba. Even God appreciates when you are trying to sing in Chile. Exactly.
Okay, so finally, as we come to the end of the program, is there anything you'd like to say?
Mangala. Basically, just a word of encouragement to us all as grieving members of the family that Father Chilinda knew and loved. That even in his absence, we should gravitate towards each other for support and encouragement, so that the love that he showed to us does not seem to have gone with him in vain. Because we should follow his footsteps and try to show love to the people around us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have benefited from the grace of his presence that God gave us during his few years on this earth.
And for you, Dad?
Her words are mine.
Wow. Thank you so much for opening your home to us. And we stand with you in prayer. We're in this together. And let's move on and make sure that his legacy lives on.
True. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So there you have it. I was talking to Mr. and Mrs. Chipwende, family members of the late Father Charles Chilinda.